The great white shark, the undisputed apex predator of the ocean. They hunt seals, they hunt sea lions, entire whale calves. These sharks are supposed to be the ultimate killing machines, so why are they fleeing in absolute panic from a dolphin? To understand why a shark would ever run from a dolphin, we first have to completely forget everything we think we know about dolphins. Because we interact with them in captivity, and because they occasionally swim alongside boats, we have this collective idea that dolphins are just friendly, harmless sea creatures. We view them as the golden retrievers of the ocean. Except, golden retrievers don't usually coordinate tactical hits to cave in a stranger's ribcage. They're highly intelligent predators. Sure, they might be curious and friendly towards humans, but everything else in the ocean? They're straight up ruthless. Great whites are incredibly deadly, but they operate almost entirely on pure instinct. They see a shape, they smell blood, they attack. They don't really plan, and they definitely don't strategize with other sharks. Dolphins, on the other hand, actually think. They have massive brains. They can solve problems in real time, they understand cause and effect, and most importantly, they communicate with each other. But being smart doesn't automatically mean you can beat up a shark. To actually win a fight against a mouthful of razor blades, you have to take away the shark's biggest advantage. If you look at how a great white actually hunts, you'll notice that they really only have one major trick: stealth. Great whites have a dark grey back and a white underbelly. This is called countershading. If you look down at a shark from above, its dark back blends in with the deep ocean. If you look up at a shark below, its white belly blends in with the sunlight hitting the surface. Their entire hunting strategy revolves around lurking in the deep water, and then shooting upward to ambush their prey before the target even knows they're there. If a great white loses the element of surprise, it's probably not catching anything. And this is exactly where the dolphin completely ruins the shark's life. Dolphins have echolocation. They produce high-frequency clicks in their nasal passages and project them out into the water. These sound waves travel through the ocean, which, by the way, carries sound at about 4.5 times faster than air, and bounce off objects, returning to the dolphin's lower jaw. This gives the dolphins a 3D map of everything around them. But it's actually even crazier than that. Because sharks are mostly made of water and cartilage, the dolphin's sonar literally penetrates right through the shark's tissue and bounces off its denser internal organs. A dolphin can literally see a great white hiding in the murky depths. It knows exactly how big the shark is, exactly how fast it's moving, and exactly where it is, even in pitch black water. A great white can never sneak up to a dolphin, ever. The shark's absolute best weapon, the ambush, is completely neutralized before the shark even makes a move. But obviously, just knowing a shark is there doesn't physically stop the shark from eating you. You still have to actually fight it. If a fight actually breaks out, it really doesn't look fair. The great white has teeth that looks like, well, this, which means they can effortlessly slice through thick whale blubber and bone. The dolphin has teeth that look like this. They're really only good for gripping slippery fish. If a dolphin tried to bite a great white, it would be completely useless. So instead, they just use their heads. Specifically, they use their snout, which is called a rostrum. To understand why this is so effective, you have to look at how both animals are built. A great white shark is a cartilaginous fish. This means its entire skeleton is made of cartilage, the same flexible stuff that makes up your ears and nose. Cartilage is great for a shark because it makes them lighter and allows them to be incredibly flexible, so they can make sharp turns in the water. But it's terrible for literally everything else, especially when it comes to structural protection. A shark's underbelly and gills are incredibly soft and vulnerable. A dolphin, however, is a mammal, and like all mammals, it has a skeleton made of solid, dense bone. The dolphin's rostrum is basically just a block of bone attached to the front of its face. It's incredibly hard, and the dolphin's neck muscles are built to absorb the shock of an impact. So when a dolphin fights a shark, it turns itself into a battering ram. You just have solid bone colliding at high speeds with a soft underbelly. And this is all cool and tactical and all on paper, but in real life, a shark isn't just going to sit there and let you take your turn hitting it with your face. So how do the dolphins actually pull this off in a real situation? When a dolphin decides to attack a shark, the first thing the dolphin does is dive deep. Remember, the shark wants to be below its prey. By diving underneath the shark, the dolphin instantly takes away the shark's preferred hunting angle. The shark is now forced to look down, which is awkward for its body shape, while the dolphin has a clear runway moving up. Once the dolphin is positioned below the shark, it accelerates. Dolphins are incredibly fast and agile, capable of reaching speeds over 20 miles per hour in short bursts. The dolphin swims upward at full speed and rams its solid bone rostrum directly into the shark's softest targets, the stomach or the gills. They aren't trying to just give them a warning bump. This is straight up blunt force trauma. A high-speed strike to a great white's underbelly can cause massive internal bleeding, rupturing the shark's organs. A direct hit to the gills is even worse. The gills are highly sensitive and full of blood vessels. If a dolphin crushes a shark's gills, the shark literally cannot breathe. And when you live underwater, not breathing is a pretty big issue. One perfectly placed, full-speed ram from a dolphin can instantly paralyze or kill a shark. The precision is genuinely terrifying. The dolphin knows exactly where the shark is weakest, and it aims exclusively for those spots. But realistically, swimming headfirst into the stomach of a great white is still a massive risk for a single dolphin. If the dolphin misses, or if the shark manages to turn its head in time, the dolphin is dead. Which is exactly why they never do it alone. This brings us to the absolute biggest reason great whites run away. Dolphins are almost never alone. They travel in pods, which can range from a dozen individuals to sometimes hundreds. And because they're highly intelligent, they're actively communicating in real time. They use a complex system of whistles and clicks to coordinate their movements, warn each other of danger, and organize formations. If a great white makes the mistake of going after a single dolphin, it doesn't just fight one dolphin, it has to fight all of them. Teaming is fair game in the ocean. The dolphins will quickly swarm the shark, completely surrounding it. Because they can communicate, they take turns. While one dolphin dives below to ram the shark's stomach, another dolphin will dart in from the side to hit the gills, and a third will harass the shark from above to keep it distracted. And for the great white, this is just genuinely overwhelming. A shark is built to focus on a single target, ambush it, and eat it. It physically cannot track 10 different targets that are all talking to each other and hitting it from every angle at once. The shark can't bite everything at once. Every time it turns to snap at one dolphin, another dolphin slams into its ribs. It's an overwhelming barrage of dolphin ramming. The shark has no tactical answer for this. Its only option is to try and swim away before its internal organs are completely crushed. But this raises an obvious question. What happens if the shark does catch a dolphin completely by itself? It's really important to ground this in reality, because dolphins aren't somehow magical creatures that are immune to being eaten. Great whites are still massive apex predators. If a great white manages to find a lone dolphin that has been separated from its pod, the shark will absolutely kill it. Without the protection of the pod, the lone dolphin is extremely vulnerable. It still has echolocation, so it knows the shark is there, and it still has a hard rostrum. But in a one-on-one fight, the sheer size and bite radius of a great white is usually just too much to overcome. If the dolphin tries to ram, the shark only needs to get lucky once. A single bite from a great white will cause catastrophic blood loss, and the fight will be over in seconds. And dolphins know this. They're fully aware of how dangerous a great white is. This is exactly why they stay in pods, and it's exactly why their defensive attacks are so overwhelmingly aggressive. They completely understand that if they don't drive this shark away immediately, one of them is going to die. It's a matter of pure survival. So the dolphins have to win, and they have to win fast. And to make sure the shark is neutralized as quickly as possible, they actually exploit a literal glitch in the shark's biology. Sharks have a strange built-in flaw. It's called tonic immobility. For reasons that scientists still don't fully understand, though it might be related to mating, if a shark is flipped upside down on its back, its brain essentially shuts off. The shark goes into a state of total paralysis. It basically just turns off, and it can stay stuck in this paralyzed state for up to 15 minutes. And somehow, dolphins actually know this. When a pod of dolphins is swarming a great white, they'll actively coordinate their rams to hit the shark from the side, specifically trying to roll the massive fish completely upside down. If they manage to flip the great white, the fight is instantly over. The shark goes completely stiff and begins to sink. Because great whites need flowing water over their gills to breathe, being upside down means they literally just start to suffocate. The dolphins can just hover around the paralyzed shark and watch it drown. which is incredibly dark for an animal that we paint on children's lunchboxes. It's a genuinely insane tactic. The dolphins have literally learned the biological weaknesses of their predator and are actively exploiting them. So this strategy of echolocation, ramming and flipping works flawlessly on great whites. But I don't know about you, but I was curious to know what happens if you scale the shark up. Could a pod of normal dolphins do this to a megalodon? Let's entertain a fun hypothetical. What if a pod of modern bottlenose dolphins somehow crossed paths with a megalodon? The megalodon was the largest shark ever to exist, reaching up to 50 feet long and weighing around 50 tons. It was designed to hunt massive whales. If a pod of dolphins tried to use their ramming strategy on a megalodon, it would be completely useless. The megalodon is so massive that if the dolphin tried to ram its stomach, the dolphin would just break its own rostrum. The megalodon would barely even register the impact. You simply cannot use blunt force trauma against something that's 50 times your size. But at the same time, the megalodon probably couldn't kill the dolphins either. Megalodons were massive, which means they were also relatively slow to accelerate. Dolphins are incredibly fast and agile, plus the dolphins still have echolocation. The megalodon could never sneak up on them, and it could never outturn them in the open water. If a megalodon tried to hunt a pod of dolphins, it would just be actively wasting massive amounts of energy chasing hyperactive targets that it could never actually catch. And not just, oh, the dolphins are a little too fast. The megalodon physically couldn't even turn fast enough to keep them in its line of sight. Eventually, the megalodon would probably just get annoyed, give up, and swim away to find a slow, deaf whale instead. So, normal dolphins definitely can't kill a prehistoric shark. But what if the dolphin was also a giant? Up until now, we've been talking about standard dolphins, bottlenose dolphins, spinner dolphins, and the ones you see jumping in the wake of boats. And yes, great whites will absolutely run away from a large pod of those normal dolphins. But there's another animal in the ocean, an animal that great whites fear so deeply that the mere scent of them in the water will cause the great white to completely abandon its territory: the killer whale, or the orca. Despite the name, killer whales aren't actually whales, they're dolphins. In fact, they're the largest species of dolphin on the planet, and this is where the great white's life goes from difficult to completely hopeless. Take every single advantage a normal dolphin has: the echolocation, the massive brain, the communication, and the teamwork. Now take all of that intelligence and put it inside a body that's 30 feet long and weighs 1,200 pounds. An orca is significantly larger, heavier, and faster than a great white shark. And unlike normal dolphins, which only usually attack sharks in self-defense, orcas have a very different relationship with great whites. When an orca sees a great white, it goes completely on the offensive. Orcas are the undisputed apex predators of the entire global ocean. There's absolutely nothing in the sea that hunts an orca, but orcas actively hunt great whites. And the most disturbing part about this is why they hunt them. They're hunting them specifically for a snack. Shark livers are absolutely massive. In a great white, the liver can take up a huge portion of its body cavity, and it's incredibly rich in a compound called squalene, which is basically just pure fat. For an orca, a great white's liver is basically just a giant calorie bomb. They use their echolocation to find the great white. Then, using their massive size and speed, they ram the shark from the side. But because the orca is so huge, it completely overpowers the shark, physically grabbing the great white from the pectoral fins and forcefully flipping it upside down. The great white instantly goes into tonic immobility. It's paralyzed. Once the shark is helpless, the orcas don't just blindly start eating. They bite into the shark's underbelly with extreme precision, specifically tearing out just the liver. They don't eat the fins. They don't eat the muscle. They literally squeeze the liver out of the shark like toothpaste, eat it, and let the rest of the massive great white sink to the bottom of the ocean. This is kinda like opening a bag of chips, eating one single chip, and throwing the rest of the bag in the trash. Just on a 4,000-pound scale. The orcas are literally just treating the ocean's most feared predator like a giant swimming vending machine that sells liver. Nasty. And because of this, great whites have developed a hardwired response to orcas. The fear that great whites have of orcas is so intense that it actually alters the entire ecosystem of the ocean. Marine biologists have heavily studied this phenomenon, particularly around the Farallon Islands off the coast of California and off the coast of South Africa. These areas are globally famous for having massive populations of great whites, who gather there to hunt seals. But researchers notice something crazy. If a pod of orcas simply passes through the area, even if they don't actually attack a shark, the great whites will detect their presence, and immediately every single great white in the area will flee. And not just, oh, let's hide a few miles down the coast. Electronic tags placed on these sharks show they'll dive deep and swim hundreds of miles straight out into the open ocean, sometimes heading all the way to Hawaii. They'll completely abandon their absolute favourite hunting grounds, and they won't return for months. Sometimes they won't come back for an entire year. They're just gone. The sharks would literally rather starve in the open ocean than risk spending even one more hour in the same water as an orca. And honestly, considering what the orcas do to their livers, you can't really blame them. But if teamwork and communication are literally forcing sharks out of their own homes, it brings up a very logical question. Why don't the sharks just team up too? If being in a coordinated group is the ultimate strategy in the ocean, why haven't great whites evolved to form their own packs? A pod of 10 communicating great whites would be unstoppable. But they don't do it, and the reason is they physically can't. Evolution is a one-way street, and millions of years ago, sharks went down the path of the solitary hunter. Their brains are highly specialized, but they're specialized for sensory input. A huge portion of the shark's brain is dedicated entirely to processing smell, detecting vibrations, and sensing electrical fields. But what their brain lacks is the ability to be social. They just don't have the biological hardware for empathy, language, or making friends. To a great white, another shark is either competition for food or a potential threat. There's no trust, because their brains literally don't process the concept of trust. Everything is either something you can eat or something you have to fight. Evolution locked them into being alone. No matter how big they get or how sharp their teeth are, they'll always have to fight their battles entirely by themselves. We usually assume that the ocean is ruled by the biggest, scariest looking monsters. If you have the sharpest teeth and the biggest body, you win. But reality is a lot more complicated than that. Physical power and sharp teeth are great, but they have a hard limit. A single animal, no matter how big or how deadly, simply cannot compete with animals that actually share information and work together. The dolphins prove that intelligence, communication, and teamwork, as cringe as it may sound, will still have the power to beat raw, solitary aggression. They don't need to be covered in armor, and they don't need teeth the size of knives. They just need each other. Aww.
And honestly, considering how incredibly efficient and brutal they are when they actually want to be, we should probably just be glad that dolphins happen to like us.
For now. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you want to see my full video about orcas, check it out here.